What's good, everybody? That dude Curtis here, and right now I am incredibly excited. I cannot believe after so many years we are finally getting a Marvel vs. Capcom collection. I have been waiting for this basically half my life. It's crazy. Like, these games were such a big part of my fighting game journey and arcade experience. They came out at the right time. I was a teenager when I was playing them, and I'm just super excited, because this is the first time we've been able to have all of the games. The earlier games were on PlayStation 1. In fact, they're the reason I got a PlayStation 1, because at the time, I didn't know how terrible the ports were. I just saw the advertisements in the back of a game magazine. And I knew that these were the games that I loved to play in the arcade, along with Rival Schools and, other PlayStation games that were coming out. So it was like, that solidifies it. PlayStation is the console for me. It's funny, if I had known that the Saturn versions were better, I probably would have ended up with a Saturn, which would have changed my whole console journey. That would have been a huge disappointment outside of the awesome fighting games. But like I said, just to be able to have all these games again, I was so tempted to go out and buy the arcade one-up machine, but just couldn't because of the price and the fact that I have no place to put it. And I was just like hoping against hope that we'd finally get the collection, and it's finally happened. I'm so glad that Marvel and Capcom have come together to produce this. It looks like it's greatly thought out. A lot of good features. And again, just being able to have all these games. I know a lot of people are excited about Marvel 2. I'm excited about Marvel 2, but Marvel 2 has never been my favorite Marvel game. Marvel vs. Capcom 1 is my favorite Marvel game in the series. But, X-Men vs. Street Fighter was huge for me when it came out. That was a game that, I went crazy for it when the first time I saw it. Like, it brought me to the arcade. Marvel vs. Capcom 2, when that came out, arcades were dead in my area. So I barely got to play that in arcade. I was mostly played on Dreamcast, and I have a lot of bad memories about having to unlock all those characters, because that was a pain in the ass, and having to do it multiple times because your Dreamcast VMU would get corrupted or something. But just being able to finally play all these games at home, be able to play X-Men vs. Street Fighter, Marvel Superheroes vs. Street Fighter, the ones before that, Children of the Atom, and just being able to have them on a modern console, that's super excited for me. And I know that you could have been able to play a lot of those, whether it's playing it through Fightcade or emulation and everything, but there's nothing like just being able to turn on your regular console and play a game. That's one of the reasons why a lot of people don't mess around with emulation, don't mess around with Parsec or Fightcade or anything like that, because it takes more work, and people want things to be easy. It's the same reason why people want things on modern consoles, because they won't have 50 different consoles hooked up to their TV from all generations just to play games. Like, ideally, especially as these consoles get more and more powerful, you want to just have the one box that can play any and everything you want it to play. You just press a button and it calls it up. And while we're still far away from that, it's nice when your favorite games of all time are able to be played like that. In terms of like Nintendo games, you can typically do that on a lot of Nintendo consoles, especially, back with the Wii, and even now with the Switch, where a lot of my favorite Nintendo games are always at my fingertips if I want to play them. The Switch, there's still a few games the Switch hasn't got from like the Wii U and Wii generation, but for the most part, all my favorite classic Nintendo games are there and accounted for, and I can play them anytime I want. But when it comes to the non-Nintendo side, this was the side when I was truly being formed as a gamer, because PlayStation came out in 95 in the US, I believe it was, and at that time I was about 13. So they say about things that you start to like when you were 13, and around those ages is what carries you through adulthood, essentially. So, all of my favorite games I played around that time, whether it be, I always loved Street Fighter in general, but again, playing the Versus series, playing Metal Gear Solid, playing Resident Evil, playing Gran Turismo. These were games that I absolutely loved, and I still love to this day. So finally being able to have some of my favorite classic fighting games available on a modern console, I'm super excited for that. Next thing I just need for Capcom to do is to free Rival Schools, because I know people want Rival Schools. So Rival Schools, Project Justice, what's the other one? Power Stone. We need those in the next collection. Or actually, probably before that, especially with the new Street Fighter 6 DLC, the SNK versus Capcom collection. That's what we need. So we'll see what Capcom cooks up next. Sound off in the comments below. Let me know some of your memories of these games, which ones you're most excited for, especially if it's a non-Marvel 2 game. Because again, I know people love Marvel 2, but really, people love the idea of Marvel 2. Because most people who actually play Marvel 2, especially if you're a casual, you're going to get bodied. And when you're getting bodied the way you're going to get bodied, you're not going to have a good time. And you know how I know you're not going to have a good time? Because you don't have a good time in modern games when you get bodied. And the modern games are much more forgiving than Marvel 2 was. So, and I remember when Marvel 2 dropped for PS3 and Xbox, it was the top selling digital game of all time at the time. A lot of casuals were complaining because they were getting bodied left and right. First they were complaining, which was a dumb complaint to me, with the fact that all the characters were unlocked. Unlocking characters was a pain in the ass on the PlayStation and the Dreamcast and the Xbox versions. Nobody wants to do that. No real players want to do that. And I'm sorry if that offends you as a casual, but I'm sorry. Nobody wants to sit around for hours and days trying to unlock characters. Give me the characters, give me the roster, let me play. And when we play, the casuals were getting bodied, and they weren't happy about it. The different websites and forums and everything were full of people complaining about that. And like I said, modern fighting games are a lot more forgiving when it comes to fighting. And people still get bodied and still get complained. So, again, I think a lot of people, it's the idea of Marvel 2. So, we'll see if they actually like it as much as they thought they would once it comes out. But the other games, again, they're hard too, but from a casual perspective, the other games are a lot more, just a lot more rewarding in terms of, for one, Marvel 2 doesn't have any endings. All the other games have endings and everything. So it's something nice that you can get from just playing through it in a casual play of arcade mode. It's a lot more fun than Marvel 2, in my opinion. Marvel 2 is just, like I said, a competitive monster, and I love it from that standpoint. But for me, like I said, Marvel 1 is my favorite game in the Marvel vs. Capcom series. And, hopefully this opens the door up for a true Marvel vs. Capcom 4. I liked Infinite. I know a lot of people didn't, but I liked Infinite a lot. And hopefully they take some of the good stuff that Infinite did do and then combine that with the presentation of past games, music, story, everything, just to make something that's more captures the spirit of Marvel. And to me, like I said, that's ideally going back towards Marvel 3, Marvel 1 style. Because again, Marvel 2, the presentation of the game did not feel consistent with the other games. We love Marvel 2 because of the huge roster and whatnot, but overall, the music, and again, I love the music, but the music was not consistent with the previous games. The graphics was not consistent with the previous games. It was weird. But it was fun because again, it was mayhem. So I would love to see all the characters from Marvel 2 return, plus the characters from Marvel 3, plus new characters potentially in the Marvel 4. Obviously, I know that probably wouldn't happen like that out the gate. Maybe it could happen, kind of like Dragon Ball Sparking Zero, where they're It's not going to have as many characters as Tenkaichi 3 did, I believe, but it's still going to have like hundreds of characters, even though I don't like their counting because it's just duplicates of characters, essentially in different forms. But still, you know what I mean. It's going to have tons of characters, plus DLC. Like, I would love to see, you know, ideally, I would love to see like a Marvel game, a modern Marvel game with at least 50 characters to start, and then you can add from there. And you can actually do a pretty strong 25-25 roster for a Marvel 4. And maybe I'll have to make another video talking about that. But anyway, thanks for watching. Sound off in the comments below, and y'all have a good one.